Welcome back to another Workshop Wednesday. I'm super excited today because we're going to interview Jeff Allen from Executive Management Services in Idaho. I love the Midwest. A lot of you know that I grew up in the Midwest, so I'm super excited to speak to you today. Welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me today.
How are you? How are things? How's the weather, first of all?
Oh man, the it's awesome. We have 68 degrees, complete sunshine. The days have been beautiful, so taking advantage of the times, being outside it's been just an added bonus.
Yes, so important, especially to people in California like me. We love our sunshine. So tell us so you're in Idaho, so tell us what areas you serve and how long you've been in business.
Well, I've been in the property management industry for, going on almost 20 years now, and originally from the Southern California market. So I moved up here to the Boise, Idaho area about 7 years ago. And during that time, I just found my niche and, landed with a property management company that I'm helping to build. And we service the Boise metro area, which covers the Treasure Valley. And the Treasure Valley out here is a very large area, very large valley that consists of multiple cities such as Meridian and Boise, Nampa, Caldwell. We're like one of the top ranked places to live in the nation and have been for some time.
Yes. So what is your real estate market like now? So what are you experiencing? How are things going? All that good stuff.
Well, interestingly enough, we've had such a healthy market for years now. Just with the hype on people moving up here to the Northwest and migrating up here, and the cost of homes are great. The cost of living is great. The weather is amazing. If you like four seasons, not a whole lot of snow shoveling, to be honest. From time to time, we do get some heavy snows, but overall it's manageable. So people just love coming up here, and what we've experienced is like literally right around the end of March. We closed, I think, an average of 900 homes just in that month. So we know that the market is healthy as far as real estate. The home prices have gone up year over year by 11.7%, to be exact. Our sales numbers have gone up year over year by 10.4%. So the numbers are really telling the story that we haven't really seen an impact here either way. What we do think, though, is that with coronavirus coming in, that we will see a dip in those numbers into quarter two. But a lot of that could also stem from the lack of inventory that we have here in the market currently. So it's still too early to really tell how we will be impacted, but we do know that inventory is down, the housing price is up, so there's that supply and demand kind of concept going on. And I'm a multifamily guy, so in the multifamily, we have about 2,700 new constructed units that we're currently dealing with here in the Valley, as compared to the single family side where there's just about 740. So we have a huge influx of multifamily product that is currently being built. Not a whole lot of single family. They're trying to catch up. So we did see a little bit of a dip, and now we're coming back up. So we feel that we're going to close the year strong in this market.
Yeah, we're definitely not in a real estate crisis. We're just in a crisis right now. And so
exactly.
I know that each state is different. I know that we've been kind of having to pivot for a while now here in California. So in your market, in the multifamily, in rentals and all the, people can rent single family homes and like apartment communities or whatever,
Sure.
But how has that affected the business during like this month or during this time? Are you able to rent? like, is someone able to walk into a leasing office or, you know, actually rent a unit? Because people do need to move. Some people can't afford, you know, their rent or whatever. Maybe they were in the middle of a job transfer and they're just coming to town and they're ready to find a place. So how have you had to pivot and change things during that time?
Yeah, this interesting question because, you know, when all of this kind of came out in March, mid-March, you know, everybody I think was shocked with that initial, you know, OMG, we're in a pandemic, it's coming our way, what do we do? And you know, we knew things that we did know, the highly populated areas were going to be impacted more. Fortunate for me being in Idaho, you know, we've had what 2,000 cases, very few deaths. But I do feel that we've been fairly proactive in our measures as far as being, you know, practicing that social distancing and so forth. You know, what's unique about me is, you know, we were a startup company. You know, we were just born in the end of 2018. And, you know, we have competition in this market. You know, there's a lot of property management firms that are already fully established, or they have a plethora of network people that they do business with. So we have had a struggle in terms of growing our business. But on the flip side, as far as pivoting and adapting to the change, you know, we've done a fairly decent job. I mean, in April, we collected about 92% of our total rents in our portfolio, which isn't bad. I think it's a little bit better than the nation standard at 89%. You know, we've done a really good job at being proactive as far as communicating to not only our tenants, but our owners, and trying to be that middle person to, you know, persuade owners who are not bought into the hype of this pandemic. You know, you have a lot of people who still don't believe that it's real, or are not taking precautions. So I think we've done a really good job at kind of managing both sides. And as a result, you know, I think we've had maybe 2 individuals out of a 200 unit portfolio that have just bailed on us as far as tenants are concerned, where they just were so scared that they left. So 2 out of 200 is not a bad percentage. You know, we're really working with our tenants. You know, I think that is the key here. You know, do you want to deal with an influx of move outs because you want your rent and you want it now? No. What you want is you want to assure them that their home is safe, that they're not going to lose their home, and that you're going to work with them on a payment plan of some sort. We happen to adopt our own stimulus plan, we call it, which we do kind of a forbearance option. So we have said, hey guys, pay half your rent for April, half your rent for May, because we know by June we're going to be on the up and up. And because of that, you'll have some extra money in your pocket to pay for food and your car note. And we would renew you and extend your lease term another 12 months out and recoup some of our rent loss from that forbearance period that we call it. So we've had some success there. You know, we're waiving additional fees, you know, late fees and pet fees and, you know, utility fees. You know, we're doing everything that we can within reason to help, because at the end of the day, I think every property owner or investor would agree with me. Occupancy is what you want, and you don't want to come out of this pandemic on the upswing trying to fill in your vacancy.
Yeah, that's so good. And something I thought was brilliant was that you said was that you're offering the forbearance, but you're also asking for an extra year lease, which then keeps them where they're at. And that guarantees, for the most part, a whole nother year's rent coming in for your owners. So I think that's pretty brilliant. I know that, you know, with things like this, I think that is the biggest thing is housing and all of that. And so you mentioned you had 2 out of 200 people bail. Those were owners of properties decide to pull their property from your company?
No, those were tenants. Yeah, they, I mean, I sympathize for those who have been affected by the virus. I've had relatives who have caught the virus personally. They have recovered. So what's interesting is your experiences in this time really determine how you handle the situation. So for those who have not been impacted or are not following, the trends of what our nation is doing, they're not going to see, they're not going to care, and they're going to move on with their life, which probably isn't a bad thing to do. But for those who have been impacted, I do sympathize with, and we want to, listen, we want to care, and we want to do what we were told to do when we were kids, which was, treat those who, treat people the way that you would want to be treated. I think that's the best thing that we can do right now.
Yeah, that's so good. And so with your program that you've offered your tenants, has anybody had to use their moratorium on evictions yet? Have you gotten to that place yet? And how do you think this is going to play out in like a couple months or like Q2 or so on and so forth? Like, how do you think that's all going to affect our market?
Yeah, I mean, being from Southern California and dealing with that eviction process, it's so much different up here in Idaho. It really is, pro landlord here, and things are starting to shift a little bit. It's starting to become a little bit more fair. But going back to my comment about, I really feel that property owners and investors are going to want to keep the occupancy. So if you have a tenant who, hasn't paid their rent in May yet, and only paid half of their rent in April, that's okay, because you're getting some sort of income coming in. It might not be enough, I understand that, but the reality is stimulus checks are going out. People's their tax returns have come out or will be coming out. Jobs are starting to pick up. There are certain parts of our nation where they're planning a back to work plan. Us in Idaho, we are in stage 1 of 4. We started this on Monday, and things are going well from what I can see. We don't feel that there's going to be a hiccup in the situation. We're going to be on the up and up, I like to say. And I really feel that if owners can really wait and be patient, that whatever monies are owed for April and May will be recouped here in June, even into July in some cases. And then you have your tenants back on track. They're back to work. They're getting that steady income. And in reality, you have a very small percentage of tenants who really want to pay. I mean, I know that sounds crazy. You hear all these stories and you're on Facebook and you hear these jokes about people who, they take their stimulus check and they go, buy, whatever it is that they want to buy, and everybody laughs about it. But if my experience is out here, the majority of society is responsible. They want to pay. They don't want to lose their home. So they're going to do whatever they can to ensure that they're able to stay. And if we can work out a payment option, a payment plan that allows them to have some money in their pocket to feed their families and to put gas in their car, then, why not? And at the end of the day, the owners, will get their money, and we're not dealing with a turnover situation, which causes, money loss on vacancy, your turnover expenses, any damages, a security deposit only covers so much. So you're really better off right now holding on to the tenants that you have. And you're always going to have a very small percentage that you evict anyways. So, the reality is, yes, we will have evictions, but I don't feel it will be any more than what the norm is for you in whatever markets, people manage or own. I'm just not seeing that being an issue. In fact, some courts are veering away from an eviction. They want to stipulate a payment plan. So you go through the paperwork, you pay the fees, you go see a judge, and then that judge tells you, okay, you want possession back of this location, not a problem, but let's work on a payment plan so that we're not kicking these people out of the home and they're not, out on the streets. So you're looking at it like, well, why did I come to court? I should have done this on my own. I could have saved money. So I think that's what we need to do for the next at least 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, that's so good. And then the property owners do have an option to talk to their banks as well. And so they did make it, especially those that don't have like maybe a lot of money set aside for something like this, I know they have to keep the security deposit in their reserves or whatever, but I mean, the owners of the property have options as well as the tenants, which I think is great as well. And then in general, so with the eviction moratorium, you cannot, so if somebody doesn't pay rent for me, and you don't hear from them or anything, I mean, I know that there's rules to it, but is it the process that you just give them a notice, obviously 3 days or whatever it is in Idaho, like 3-day pay or quit or whatever. And
That's
then
right.
if they don't respond, let's just say like worst case scenario, you as a property management company cannot take the next steps for evicting them, correct?
Currently, we can. Our courts have opened up and they're accepting filings currently. It could be a little bit delayed. I mean, we're used to seeing, once you file paperwork, we're getting in court in 2 weeks, which is a very quick turnaround. They're saying that they're backed up a little bit currently from the month prior. So I don't know, maybe a month out is what we're looking at. But if you're not hearing from a tenant, they've gone MIA on you, they've bailed or whatever, there are certain things we do. We can post a 24-hour notice to enter to verify and confirm that their personal belongings are still within that dwelling. That lets us know that they're still there. They just haven't paid. If it's completely vacant, then we have the ability to post the abandonment order and take possession after that order's, complete. So you don't have to necessarily not evict someone. You could file and go through the process and get possession if you're truly dealing with somebody who is not communicating with you, which I do recommend, because you will have people who will just bail. It's crazy. You have people who just will bail. They don't know the laws. They don't read the contract that they signed, the 50 pages that they had to go through. They don't know, and they don't want to know. They just are afraid, and they react instead of handle it in a more proactive way and reach out and get information to educate themselves.
Right. Because the worst you can say is no. I mean, I just think people respond in fear, and it's like the flight or fight syndrome.
That's right.
So, yeah, that's so interesting. And, we haven't, obviously in California, they want us to not even have to pay rent, which is just ridiculous. The business owners, they need the property owners, they need their money for their investment. But I mean, it just is a scary time. And so have you, has your office closed down, or have you had to have any employees furloughed, or has it been normal staff? And, because I know that in the property management industry, you usually have your leasing agents, you have like, depending on the property management company, you have like your staff that goes out and works on the units, turns them, get them ready for cleaning. So have you had to adjust any of that?
Yeah, I mean, we have our portfolio is a mixture that of multifamily as well as single family. And, with the multifamily crew, they're on site. We have been classified as essential since lockdown. So for my property manager who's, doing a multifamily apartment right now, bless her soul, she's been on that front line, practicing that social distancing. We have gone to a code box process where you can show yourself the apartment, and we have a code there that you can get through a program online. So we have distanced ourselves from the general public. What's interesting though is that I think right around the end of March, right around the 25th of March, I think a lot of our market, at least this submarket, there was a huge decline in traffic, and everybody was really worried about it, especially with the coronavirus conversations. And then literally when April 1st hit, and ever since then, we've been on this increase, and it has not flatlined, where people are looking for apartments here in this area. And we're leasing apartments. I mean, my competition is leasing, 6 to 14 apartments a week. We're leasing, 6 to 14 apartments a week. Some of the new construction stuff, in the lease up, it's crazy. People are still inquiring. They're still applying. Now they might not be coming in person to look at a location. Everything's done online. You have virtual tours that are now happening, which in reality, they should always be happening. I think when I was managing in California 20 years ago, we were doing virtual tours. That was the thing to do. And a lot of our nation, like for this market, you didn't have to do that. The only thing you had to do was answer a phone and get the lease. You didn't even have to work for a lease here. Now it's a little bit more competitive, so you have to do these things that you really should have been doing all along. Your Facebook page, your virtual tours, all of those things are bread and butter in the past, and they're even today. If you're on top of everything on your marketing, you're already doing these things, so you're really not having to change anything that you're already doing.
Sure. Yeah, that's so true. Has the prices come down at all in rentals? Or are you guys pretty much able to maintain, since there's still a high amount of people coming and looking?
Well, you have different owners who have different strategies. So you have some people who are looking to sell a property, so they don't necessarily want to reduce their rent, because that does affect the purchase price of the property. So it just depends. But to answer that question as generalized as I can, I think what a lot of people are doing is they have some high vacancy where maybe there's an apartment or a home is sitting vacant for 30 days. So they're, dropping the rent a little bit to entice somebody to come and take it. So I have seen very few of those cases. What I am seeing a lot of is a lot of the properties here are being very creative with their concessions. They're not reducing the rent necessarily. They're, reducing the security deposit requirement, or they're waiving an administrative fee or an application fee, or, they're giving away a big screen TV, or, things like that. So, the market out here is getting really creative, but we're not necessarily reducing the rent if we don't have to.
Yeah, that's so good, to lower that security, get in cheaper, but for the owners, you're extending, because if you discount the rent amount, that's every month for the length of their contract, that adds up. Yeah. So that's really important too. That's good, because I know in the real estate, I've been kind of watching it here in California and in my neighborhood, and I'm seeing prices drop between 10 and 15, but we're so overpriced anyway. So it doesn't, they're still making it pretty good money. So. Well, that's good. And that's good that you're able to pivot. And I think a lot of it is it's pushing the companies to be more virtual, which we should have been anyway. But a lot of people don't want to take that leap into becoming virtual. And so a lot of our members are, I'm kind of over the social media department for HSRA. And I'm always telling them video, do a video, get on Facebook Live. And they're always like, no, I don't want to. So those ones that don't usually do it, now I'm seeing them them on there. They're getting on there, letting people know, you know, different things about the market or what services or how they've pivoted their services, doing, you know, consultations online and being able to just FaceTime them and walk through a property and give them advice. You know, they're making do with what they can, but they probably should have been doing that already. So it's great when we pivot and we put these things into play, and now we can continue to grow the business that way. So I'm glad to hear that as well. Any last minute thoughts? You've been so helpful and informative.
You know, I just going back to that pivot, you know, with us being a new management company here in this market, you know, when we came out of the gate, it was all about networking. You know, you're joining the Chamber of Commerce, you're hitting up, you know, network groups and BNIs and your associations, and that's the norm. You know, that's how everybody does business in any industry that you're in. You network. It's a no-brainer, right? Then coronavirus comes in and slaps you across the face and says, you know, you better not mess with me. You can't network anymore. So when we as society deal with these very unusual circumstances, you know, how do we bounce back? You know, do we all just sit there and take it and fail? I think what's interesting is there are so many stories out there that are positive, that are success stories. And I feel like I am a part of that success story because, again, with a upcoming company that I'm creating here, you know, our bread and butter was, you know, I'm out there networking, talking to real estate agents, talking to investors, talking to, you know, brokerage firms and commercial real estate people. And for the last 2 months, I haven't been able to do anything. So what do? Wait until the storm goes away? We'll know. You know, what we've done is we've started focusing on the things we should have been already doing. You know, online, you know, the Zoom meetings, you know, I really appreciate, you know, the opportunity to do this, you know, whether you're in my area or not, just, you know, getting, you know, my name and my company's name out there is beneficial in itself. We have a lot of Californians that own property up here. So, you know, so it's really shown me and my coworkers, you know, that, you know, right now is the time to educate. You know, our mindset has shifted dramatically. We're in this mode of, you know, educate. We call it educate, act, and deliver. Educate yourself, take the time to formulate an action plan and act on that by delivering. And that's the phase that we're in right now. So I'm really blessed for the time that I have, the downtime, if you will. I feel like I'm busier now than I ever have been. It's kind of weird, but it's really allowed me opportunities to improve my, you know, workflow processes. We changed a management software. I felt like we upgraded our website, you know, and really you know, we've really done a lot to put ourselves in a better position so that when we are back to normal, we're going to take off and kick butt.
Yeah, I agree 100%. That's what we're seeing in our staging community as well. You know, reviewing policy and procedures, you know, evaluating maybe the employees, the ones that have been, you know, they're having to stay home or whatever. Like, who do you want to bring back on your team? You know, do you want to invest in something else? Can somebody do something different? And so it's really been, I guess the light at the end of the tunnel of this has just been that it's given us a time to reflect and be forced to calm down, right? Because we're always so busy looking for the next thing. And so when we're not able to do that anymore, we can stop and evaluate where we're at now. And sometimes that's ugly, sometimes that's great. But the great thing is if it's ugly, you have time to improve it. So I think that's awesome.
That's right.
Well, if anybody, this is going out to, you know, on our Facebook page. So if anyone does have property in the Idaho area, how can they get a hold of you?
So we have a website. It's executivemanagementidaho.com. On our website, it showcases who we are, what we do. We promote that we are an asset management firm versus property management. That's kind of our bread and butter. We are asset managers. On the website, there's a contact us link that you can go to, sends an inquiry directly to me, and we can, chat about how it is that we can help.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was such a pleasure to meet you. Guys, be sure to check him out and his company, and we wish you very well.
Thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Okay.
Bye.